Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Legacy Farming, the podcast. This is your host, JC Young, and today's topic of discussion is this: legacy planning. So on today's community boardroom call, we went over our training again just on setting up your estate and legacy plan for your family and for your kids, and making sure that everything that you're building inside of your life, or at least our members, is taken care of and is going to last for multiple generations down the line. Now, there are a ton of documents here that need to be set up and explained and things like that. But guys, here's the problem with this. I would venture to say, just based off of our numbers, we've had more than 300 members come into Legacy Farm, where we're actually probably getting pretty close to approaching 400 by now. And I've only had one of them, that had their entire estate plan set up. I've only had one of them that really understood the difference between an estate plan and a will. And guys, there's just a major education gap and knowledge gap when it comes to setting these things up. So we covered it again on today's training, guys. And it's just every time we talk about this, there's a horror story that comes up. There's some terrible situation that somebody was in with their family or with their parents' operation or something around those means because of a lack of planning from the older generations. Now, the difficult thing about this is, like, me and my wife, our entire estate plan is set up. So on our call, I walk through our entire estate plan, how we have things set up, who gets what, when they get access to it, who our board of trustees are. Like, we walk through step by step the entire estate plan, and I show our members exactly what we have set up. Now, each one of our members, their situation could be a little bit different. Their estate plan may look a little bit different. But the important thing is that inside of our call, like today, we had 50 or 60 people live on that call. Everybody on that call is open and willing to share different situations they've encountered with family and learning what to do and what not to do. Like, you got to understand how valuable that is. And the reason is because 95% of farmers and ranchers inside of this country do not have any estate planning in place at all. Can you guys really fathom that? Can you think about how many hundreds of millions, if not billions, it's probably billions of dollars of assets that are going to go through probate, that are going to go through the court system, that there's going to be multiple cousins and kids and siblings, suing each other over in the coming years because one family, or better yet, one person, did not take the responsibility to go out and get an estate plan set up. And when I think about everything that we're doing in Legacy Farmer with all of our members, from farmer metrics to cash flow analysis to just getting all your numbers organized, then we move into field metrics and bookkeeping and tax planning and tax strategy and entity structure and getting all your entities structured and organized and who's responsible for what. All of that stuff is getting us to a point to where it's leading up to us to getting our estate plan put together, right? Like, that's all structured, it's all organized, and we start from the bottom and we work our way up, and the estate plan sits at the very top, because at the end of the day, you can have the estate plan set up for yourself, but the reality is it's not going to be structured and organized if you don't have correct entities set up, if you don't have assets set up correctly, if you don't even know what your numbers are, then these future generations aren't even going to know what they're taking over. Like, all this stuff, it builds upon each other. And the problem is, again, is that like 95% of farmers and ranchers and ag business owners in this country have zero plans set up. They may have a will set up. Guess what, guys? A will is not a estate plan. There's a difference between a last will and testament and a living will. And most people, they don't know this. When they think of will, they think of one document. No, a will can mean two different documents. And a will is a part of an estate plan. And an estate plan consists of multiple documents. So when I talk about the massive knowledge gap between getting these things set up and one person's idea of having an estate plan set up and another person's estate plan, another person's idea of having an estate plan set up with all the documentation across the board and everything structured and organized, there's a massive difference, guys. And this is a huge problem, again, because think about the problems that we're going to be passing on to our kids or our grandkids by not having these things set up and structured correctly. And a lot of people, we talk about it on our call today. There's members on there that have had to deal with the recourse that has come from their parents not setting up things correctly. And guess how long that recourse lasts? Guys, it can last years. It can last years, and you are in the middle of all of it. And with this one individual member, she was made the trustee of a trust, and her decisions now were impacting everybody else involved in the family business, her aunts and uncles and everything. And all of a sudden she had to go through several months, if not years, of just all eyes on her, trying to figure out, how do I make the right decisions here? What things should I do or not do? Can you imagine how many sleepless nights she had? How many months she was just staring at the ceiling, not figuring out, not knowing what to do? All of this can be prevented, guys, with just some proactive planning. And so many of you right now that listen to this podcast are in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. You're most likely back on the farm operation with your parents, planning to take over things one day, trying to figure out how to have this conversation with them and everything. Guys, the first thing that, like with our members is, a lot of them come in with that same question: how do I get my parents to get all this stuff set up? Well, the first thing you need to do is get it set up for yourself, because at the end of the day, they're our customers, not their parents, and they need to have this set up for them. But once you go through and you experience it and you have to set all of this stuff up yourself, you are now able to lead that conversation with your parents from a completely different perspective, because you have experience. You know what goes into your last will and testament, and your living will, and your healthcare POA, and your general durable POA, and all these documents that make up your estate plan. You know how to set up your trust and what things, how it flows from your trust to your kids, to your grandkids, everything in between, and what happens in different scenarios if only you pass away and your spouse is living, or if your spouse passes away and you're living. All of this stuff is covered in our training. Because once you understand how the entire system works, you're able to, one, you're leading what you're living with your parents. You've already got this set up, so you're speaking from actual proof. You're speaking from actual experience, and that's going to change the tone of the conversation. That's going to change the frame on the conversation, because you lived it. You know what they need to do. You know what conversations need to be had. And the difficult part of this, guys, is the conversations that need to take place are difficult ones. And that's why people avoid it at all costs. They get lazy. They don't want to, they want everybody together at Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner or whatever it is. So they avoid having these conversations. But I can tell you with absolute 110% certainty, the cost of not having the conversation is going to hurt a lot worse on your kids or your grandkids or whoever is involved in the operation, just because you didn't have the courage to take the steps necessary to get some of this documentation in place. So guys, if you're driving around in your pickup right now, or you're on the tractor, you're planting, whatever, and you're thinking about this, like, one, it's got to be you that gets it set up first. And you got to get your entire business structured and organized, know where everything is at. And I'm not talking just about your estate plan. I'm talking about your entire business entity structure, cash flow analysis, getting all your bank stuff in place, like everything that we do in Legacy Farmer, bookkeeping, finance, tax planning, tax strategy, all that type of stuff. Get all that stuff organized, because then the person taking over things, if you do pass away, guess what you're leaving them with? Detailed, structured, and organized finances, so they actually know what they have there, and they're making decisions based off of actual facts, not some fantasy like, oh, we think the farm made this, or we think the assets are worth this, or you're finding out what debt is against some assets and you thought that land was debt free or whatever. Like, there's all these unknowns that happen when somebody passes away. None of their stuff is organized, but the kids have to deal with the mess that it's created. And it causes a ton of stress. And I think people discount that a lot these days on the amount of weight that we are passing on to the next generation when we are not proactive as the parents and as this generation to go through and invest the time, energy, and money to learn about how to set up our entire estate plan, and then invest the money to get it done and get it put together correctly. That is the sole goal of, a lot of what we do in Legacy Farmer. Yes, there's tons of other stuff inside of our program that we help our members with, but all of it is leading up to make sure that we get the estate plan set up, and then everything that we've helped them build around entities and cash flow analysis and farmer metrics and bookkeeping and tax planning, all of that stuff, clean, structured, and organized, is built into that so that the next generation can see exactly what they're taking over. And it's a streamlined process. We're setting up the next generation for success. Like, guys, this is what has to happen. And again, for the people that do get this set up, great job. You're going to succeed long-term. And guess what? You're going to have an endless amount of opportunities, because the reality is a majority of farmers and ranchers inside of this country will not get this set up. Legacy Farmer, we've been fortunate enough to help between 300 and 400 family farms right now. There's 2 million family farms in this country. There's no way that I'm ever going to touch them all in my lifetime, that my team's going to help them all in our lifetime. It'd be awesome if we could. But the reality is the people that do get this stuff set up, you're going to be able to have your opportunities just become endless as the generations go on, because the other families that are not structured, that are not organized, do not have this stuff set up. everything is going to get liquidated. Everything is going to have to, because they're going to be subject to estate taxes potentially, or kids are going to want their share. And like, when none of this stuff gets structured correctly, the courts are going to decide and things will get liquidated, and you will have endless opportunities as long as you are proactive in making sure everything is structured and organized the right way. So that's really important. I do not want to discount the weight of this conversation and how critical it is to the overall long-term success and longevity of everything that you're building. Because right now you're out working today, and all of it, guys, it's for the next generation. It's for our future. It's for our legacy, and what my name means to 2, 3, 4 generations down the line from now. I got to make sure that I'm proactive in making sure that that happens, that my great, great, great grandkids know my name, know who I was, and know what I contributed and what I built in my life. That's what I want. And I want, all the work that I'm doing now to be able to contribute to their families' lives at that time as well. That's the focus here. That's where we want to get to. So my friends, hope this conversation gave you a lot to think about. And more importantly, I hope you take action because of it. So that concludes today's episode. We will catch you on the next one.